Not feeling like it.
Yeah, you're back to boss.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The time is now 7 p.m. So welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting. Before we get started, just a note, Warden Mumbercat is joining us. She's just joining us online, and so she's asked me to chair the meeting, so please ignore any of the missteps I may have tonight. So first thing we have before us is the agenda, which has been circulated in advance, and I'd be looking for any additions to the agenda. Councillor Sampson?
Can we have a preliminary conversation on some sort of policy for cell phone use in council chambers?
So some type of preliminary conversation regarding a policy for cell phone use?
Yeah, it's probably like a bylaw policy
Yeah,
situation.
referral, but let's-
yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
Okay,
For cell phone use in this room, yeah.
yeah, thank you. Other additions? I know Warden, you have a couple, but I'll just circulate the room first and. So I'm not seeing any others. Warden, if you wanted to unmute yourself and share your additions?
Yeah, so I think mine are handled under community acknowledgement.
Oh, okay.
Deputy Warden.
Perfect, all right. So we've added the preliminary discussion regarding policy of cell phone use, and then the remainder of the agenda is set.
Sorry,
So-
Deputy Warden, I just have one, I don't know
Sure.
if it's gonna fall under this meeting or not, but, just, I guess, use of, Richmond County property. And again, it might be something I'll have to take to our CAO to, it's about the look-off, I guess, I just wanna know for expansion or, yeah.
Okay,
So my sorry, through you, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I just, my feeling on that, Councillor Digdon, would be that we could probably have a conversation with staff first and just to get the lay of the land on some of that,
Sure,
but that's
that's, no,
Are you
that's
comfortable
perfect,
with
my
yeah,
initial thought.
Yeah.
100%.
yeah, I would agree with that as well. Yeah, perfect, thank you. Okay, so the agenda is now set for the meeting. The next item up is the review of the minutes from the last Committee of the Whole meeting, which was April the 11th, 2020.
I move to
No, we
accept
don't
the,
move the agenda anymore. Yeah, sorry. Right, am I right about that? Yeah. Okay, so review of the minutes of April 11th, 2022. So those were also circulated in advance of the meeting, and looking for any amendments required to those minutes. If there are no amendments required, I do require a motion to approve those minutes, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Looking for a seconder, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor of accepting the minutes of April 11th, 2022, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
contrary-minded? The ayes have it. Motion carried. So this evening, Committee of the Whole, I said earlier, it's my favorite meeting because I love getting information about different groups and presentations in particular. So tonight we have one presentation. The other presentation wasn't able to join us. So the Strait Region Nova Scotia Early Childhood Development Intervention Services, that's a mouthful. They will be joining us probably in the fall, I would guess. And so we do, however, have with us from the Université Saint-Anne, the Marine Center, we have Michelle Theriault with us, and she's going to provide us some updates and information. So the floor is yours, Michelle.
Thank you, and thanks to all of you for the opportunity to come and present again. It has been a while since we were able to come and give an update on our project, so we have a lot that's been happening, but I will just try and touch on it a little bit. I could fill the 2 slots if I was allowed, but I'll just keep it kind of short. But as you mentioned, we have our Université Saint-Anne campus here in Pitot de Gras also has this Marine Research Center attached to it, and I've been there as director for the last. I've been with Saint-Anne for about 15 years, and before that, I worked in the lobster industry, and my background is in marine biology. And I mentioned that I was in the lobster industry for 10 years, and I mentioned that because one of the things that our center now has become known for, or really specializes in, is having a connection with industry and being like really an applied research center. And so that's been quite a big asset for us going forward. So that's really the reason why we're in the position we're in now, is because of that connection that we developed, that we had going in, and that we really worked to maintain at the very beginning. So this picture here shows our facilities, and you're probably all familiar with them, but we have the campus that's on the right-hand side, and then the Marine Research Center on the left. And yeah, like I said, so we've been there over 10 years now, and it's all applied research. So all of our projects are linked with a company or with industry or a community group or an association that wants to do something. And that's, how we've managed to maintain that over the last 15 years. We are still primarily project-based, meaning that, we do projects to fund our salaries and our equipment and all of that. So that's kind of like a constant thing there, but it's in the early years, that was a bit more of a struggle for us to bring in projects to maintain the funding. And in those first few years, that was when, we did rely on a lot of local support from businesses and community groups and from the municipality too. And looking back now, I can really say that if it hadn't been for that support that we got in the first 5 to 10 years, that we really wouldn't be where we are here now today. And so that's great. So we're very thankful for that too. Today, I just, have a few things that I'll touch on. There's just 5 items there, and so mostly an update of what we do. The first 3 are kind of the programs and projects that we have running, and the second 2 items are these new projects that have developed at the university over the last year. But, yeah, so I guess one thing I'll mention, I have some notes because I just prepared this last minute. I don't try not to forget anything, but one of the things, so we are applied R&D, and so we've always worked on the projects where there was interest from the industry. And the last few years, there has been a big, renewed interest in lobster. So it goes maybe in cycles, but all of a sudden, the last 5 years, on a provincial level and on a federal level, there has been a big focus on lobster and seafood related to quality and maintaining quality for markets and for exports. And so it was great timing for us. And we were able to really, it's exciting, it was a good fit for us, and we have a few projects that we've gotten funded from that, that we're working on, so it's good. I guess, I'm not sure if it's because we've been working with lobster for so long that either by default that we're the only ones left, because it seems to be a field that most people come into and then they stay for a few years and then they leave, but we've been there for a while. It's been 25 years that I've been working with lobster, and so whatever reason, we are known as a center of specialization in lobster, or excellence in lobster quality. So, and that's across the province and also across the Atlantic Canada. So I'll talk a bit about one of the research projects. So we have 2 fair good-sized research projects running right now. This one here, this picture just gives a brief kind of description of it. That's the one that's the mostly primarily focused at our campus here in Petit de Gras. And it's all about really the goal about maintaining the highest quality possible in lobster throughout the supply chain, meaning from the trap all the way through to the customer at the other end. And so, not every lobster survives that journey, and there's a lot of lobsters that die or that become weak along the way because of handling practices or because of holding conditions. And this project that we have is looking to examine all of those different steps in the process and try and identify where the loss is happening, where the stressors are, and then try and develop new practices that will help reduce that. So it's kind of a complicated project. It's complex. It goes from the boat all the way to the air freight shipment at the end, and can take months at a time. So part of what we're doing is in the lab, trying to look at some of these things specifically, and then part in the field. So for example, right now, there's two researchers that are working on this project full time, and one of them was on a boat today, and one's going out again tomorrow to look at things like the quality of the water in the live wells, if they're using water on their boats, the impact of some of the handling that they might be doing, if when a crate gets to the wharf, if it sits out in air for too long, what is the impact of that on quality, like the week after, or a few months later, or even, when it gets to the customer at the end of the boat. Yeah, so it's a very exciting project for us, and yeah, so that's the goal. So it's all related to quality, maintaining quality, and developing best practices for the lobster industry. Another, stream of what we do, so one is research, the other is industry training and outreach. This has been something that we've been doing since about 2016, and on the screen here you see this photos of these courses, but I'm not sure, maybe not everybody's aware that in Nova Scotia right now, we have a unique program for industry training, and it's called the Nova Scotia Lobster Quality and Handling course. And we actually have 3 courses in this program right now. And it was an initiative that was developed or led by the Provincial Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And we worked with them from the beginning to put these courses together. And they're now offered throughout the province to anybody involved in the lobster industry. So, yeah, so we worked with the province to develop them. We're now giving the courses. There's a mix of them. But in general, again, it's all related to talking to people about lobster quality, what it is that lobsters actually need to stay alive, and what's the biology behind that. Like, why is it important to not leave lobsters in air on a wharf for 6 hours when the temperature is 20 degrees? And it's related to, how lobsters breathe, and that they can't get they can't get oxygen when they're in a situation like that, so they suffocate and they become weak and die. So this part here has been a big focus of mine the last few years, setting them up and delivering the courses across the province. And just this last year, I had over 600 courses, participant courses delivered. Not individually, but like groups at a time, yeah. And whether it's version 1, version 2, or version 3. So it started out a little bit slow. When the provincial government launched it, they attached a mandatory requirement. So if you have a lobster buyer's license in Nova Scotia, when you go to renew it every year, now you have to show proof that you've taken one of these courses. So some of the people that come see me are forced to be there, but it's okay. I don't hold it against them. I treat them the same. But that's only a small portion of who takes it, and the rest come voluntarily, or a company will decide to send their employees to help with the training, because really quality is a big issue, even especially more so now that the value of the lobsters is even higher. So it's a conversation that really should be had on a regular basis if this is the type of business that you're in. So we have these 2 courses. Anybody can sign up. It's open to the public, so I'll just put that out there as a general invitation. If there's anyone interested in signing up for one of these classes, feel free. Everybody learns something, even if you're thinking right now, I've been involved in lobster for 35 years, and there's nothing you can teach me.
Sounds like a challenge.
I get that a lot. But everybody always leaves, at least learning one thing. So anyway, so it's been exciting for us. And another thing that these courses, why I enjoy still doing them, is because it allows us to have a connection with the industry. So really, that's what it's all about for us. And so we get the feedback, and we get to hear what the challenges are in the industry. Like, people ask questions like, I'm having a hard time maintaining quality here. Can I do something different? Or this is what happened to me this year. Have you ever seen this before? That kind of thing. So anyway, and they're growing, and there's interest in developing more courses. So this is something relatively new for us, but we see it helping also with our campus here being sustainable into the future too. So that's one thing. Another one of the streams that we do, so we have the research and the outreach, and we have this new program that we're managing for the industry, and it's called the Lobster Quality Certification Program. I'm not sure, if you follow the Nova Scotia Provincial Fisheries and Aquaculture on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, you would have seen posts recently from this program. It's an initiative by the province again, and they actually have a seafood quality program now that they've launched. So they're trying to promote high-quality seafood for all species, and they're developing these programs to certify this product as being high quality. University of Santa Ana, right now, we developed and we manage the lobster one, so the live lobster program. So we're responsible for that one. And it's actually a program that, you know, like any certification program, it has a list of criteria and standards that you have to follow. And then you follow them, and then you apply to be audited. And there's a third party that comes in and audits your facility, like, you know, your lobster pound or your storage facility, to make sure you're following all these things for handling, for the quality of the lobster that's in it, for your water quality and all that, the process. And if you pass all that, you can attain the certification. And there is a lot of information online about it, and there's some information there, blah, 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 promote high-quality standards. And, you know, it's really the province is focused on just maintaining, you know, certifying that this seafood is high quality and working to maintain the reputation in, you know, all of these global markets that we have. One of the things that I didn't want to forget, that I made sure to write it down, was that I was very proud, actually, of the fact that, so we've just launched this program before COVID. We had our first companies certified last year, and the 3 first companies to certify were all from Richmond County.
Yay.
So we promoted it all across Nova Scotia, and the first 3 to come in were Novacan Seafoods, Premium Seafoods, and Lobsters to Us. So I was like, yes. So that's great. So in total, there's only 6 right now, but half of them are actually from Richmond County. So, you know, Richmond County's always had been associated with lobster and live lobster and high quality lobster, but this is nice because it kind of now we're certified high quality live lobster, and those companies too really should be commended for being the first to take on this program, because there are a lot of other companies that looked at it but were intimidated by some of the standards that they had to meet, and so the 3 companies I just mentioned, they all, you know, were committed right from the start, and they did investments and they did upgrades to make sure that they could meet these standards. So, yeah, so it's kind of an exciting thing. It's new and it's starting out, but it seems to be picking up traction in the live lobster industry for sure. So those are the 3 programs that we have. The next, I really only have 2 more slides, and they're a bit to talk about some new projects. And this one here says Innovation Hub and Accelerator. And you may have seen an announcement in the Reporter that came out about this project, that we were awarded money through Invest Nova Scotia and ACOA to do this. I thought maybe that's why I was invited here. You guys have not announcement, but yeah, it's a very exciting project, because it's money for, like it says here, for upgrades and improvements and modernizing for our facility. And, you know, we established that center in 2010, so we really haven't had any investment in the infrastructure since then. So we really have been running kind of bare bones as far as like saltwater supply and, you know, like access to like, you know, filtered water and refrigerated water and air temperatures and all of those things. So that's the first thing that this project is going to allow, to let us do those upgrades. 1, so that we can do more research and better and different types of research. 2, so we can also have space that's available for the industry to use. And that's why we use those words, you know, hub and accelerator and incubator and all of those things. It's because the goal is to kind of rearrange the facility that we have, so that we have spaces that are available for companies to come in and do different types of testing. So lab space, dry lab space, and wet lab space, meaning storage tanks with salt water or fresh water of a certain temperature and filtered to a certain, you know, conditions. And different types of tank systems, so that they can use. And, you know, that kind of developed because, you know, we have been really an open facility, and we do work close with a lot of companies, and we found that, you know, a lot of especially the local companies, have people to do the work, but not necessarily the space to carry it out or are not willing really to invest in what it would take to make sure you have, for example, 0 degree seawater filtered to whatever in, you know, this many tanks. So that's the goal. It's a new project. We really just started it, so we're only at the first step, which is like demolition of what we like taking apart what we have already. We're kind of stuck at that one, so hopefully as the fall comes, we'll get into this kind of restructuring what we have. Do I have a few more minutes, or, yeah?
One or two.
Or two, okay.
You're the only show, so you got one or two.
I'll give an example for the type of project that we have in mind with this, you know, this accelerator, this hub. There has been a seaweed project that's been happening in Cape Breton, so like a seaweed aquaculture project. It's been funded like through ACOA a few years back. It's been in the media a few times with announcements. It's unique in Nova Scotia, and it's 3 Cape Breton companies that are looking into seaweed aquaculture. And so they've been doing that for a few years, and they've found that it grows really well in the water that we have, very fast and very high quality. So they're looking to kind of make that next step and take it to the next level. And one of the things that they need for that is the actual hatchery source of the seaweed. And they've been outsourcing that outside of the province, and now they're at a point where they need a local source. So we're hoping to have a space in our new facility that would be like a seaweed, a sugar kelp actually hatchery. So they could gather their samples and do their hatching stuff with seaweed, spores and all of that kind of stuff, and then take it and put it on their aquaculture site. So we're in the process of doing that design and making that application. So that's kind of exciting.
All right.
That's more exciting than it sounds.
Cool.
No, that's quite
Okay,
exciting.
I have one more slide. So my last one, so the last new thing that was also in the media that you might have heard, and I think it did get associated with our campus more, but it is a university-wide kind of project that they have, or initiative, and it's this development of this new lobster center. So if you heard there was a new lobster center in town, it's not necessarily us, but we are associated with it. And it's this Lobster Quality Research and Innovation Center. And it's a better way, I guess, to describe it is it's more of the University of Saint Anne has, up until now, you know, at this point, it's been only our campus out of all the campuses that they have that has been doing lobster research or research in the seafood industry. But 2 years ago, they made a commitment towards, I guess, getting into this field. So with the help of this Building for Tomorrow Fund, they launched this new center. And it's more of like an overarching or kind of umbrella kind of structure that they're going to have that will kind of encompass all of their centers. So we have our Marine Research Center here. They have a laboratory in Church Point, and they also have a new lobster lab in Church Point. So it'll kind of gather us all together, I guess, or all these different centers with a focus on lobster. So it's exciting for us because, you know, we've worked alone for so long that now we feel a bit more secure that we have the support of the university in terms of other research scientists, other admin people, communications people, and that way. So it's good for us, you know, for our sustainability also long term as well. So it takes a little bit of the pressure off of us. So now there's a team of people, and I mentioned a team of people because actually the director of this new center, the interim director as it's getting established, is actually here, Dan Lane, from Ayrshire, so from Richmond. And so Dan was a big part of getting this new center established for Saint Anne and for helping to secure a lot of the funding for these projects that I've talked about. So it's a new center for the university, but a lot of it started here, of course, in Richmond.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And that's it. So my last slide was just my contact information and Dan's. And you know, we do have other staff. We're still a small staff, like we've always been. So we have 2 researchers. Alicia's name is up there. We have a new one, Victoria Tobin. We have an aquaculture technician and a admin person at the campus. But that's all. So
Wonderful.
that's it, so, I guess,
Thank
so,
you.
and anybody's welcome, of course, anytime to come and visit and tour, by appointment. We don't do open tours anymore, but, and we can talk for
Forever about
forever.
lobster.
But I'd be
Wonderful.
happy to answer questions too, and, don't forget about the lobster handlers.
Cool. Yeah, that's where I was going, lobster handler stuff. So when it comes to all these courses, I think you answered my question. Do you go off-site and on-site, like both options? Like
Yes.
you do them in Peterborough and,
Yeah, I travel around.
okay,
The last 2 years ago, for the first time started, I was normally just Halifax and north, and there was someone else doing the south, so I just started going into the southern part of the province to do it too, but, yep.
Okay,
We
cool.
do it now on Zoom and in person, so depending on what the interest is.
Right on.
Yep.
Cool.
So-
Any cost to that course or?
For you, yeah. No, but I mean, no, for people taking it, yes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's a cost, so it's $85 a person
Yeah.
to take the course. Sometimes there's funding, like from different sources to subsidize that for companies, but,
Yeah. So $85 per?
Yeah.
Right on.
You could've got more out of them than that. You lowballed it right off the
Yeah,
bat.
yeah, for sure.
travel.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from councillors? Good questions, thank you, councillor Sampson.
So when it comes to the seaweed agricultural project, you mentioned 3 companies. Is that a
Yes.
secret right now? Or
No, it's public, it's been announced, Premium Seafoods and Lewisburg Seafoods, their aquaculture division, which would be Cape Breton Bivalves, I think, and Bounty Bay Shellfish.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Excellent, other questions from council members?
Just one quick question from me, if that's okay, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
So, hi, Michelle. Sorry I can't be there in person to see you. I feel like we're only connecting on webinars these days, but I know you mentioned about doing tours. So if we wanted to book that, would we book that through you or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
perfect. Okay, and like, is it a limited number at a time that you could take through? And like,
I was just gonna say, what kind of tour? I should have asked.
It's a
Like,
trip.
Is it a bus coming, or?
I'm just thinking if 2 or 3 of us wanted to go through, like, is that's
Oh.
not too many, too little? Like, I'm just kidding.
No, that's perfect. We're not ready for large tours, but
Not
just
bus tours,
individual
okay.
type. Yeah,
No,
It'll
that's
be $85
Yeah,
a
take
piece
your $85, yeah.
and a 4-hour classroom setting.
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
no,
All
sure.
right. Okay, so not seeing anybody waving their hands or looking for more questions, I'd like to officially thank Michelle for coming in tonight on very short notice and providing us tons of really wonderful information about the Marine Center at University of Saint John. I learned an awful lot from your presentation, and I am going to do my best to have a tour. So thank you again for coming in tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Great job.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, folks, so the next item on our agenda is a code of conduct report. And so this item relates to a most recent report made against Councillor Digdon.
Yeah, so at this time, I'm going to declare conflict.
Thank you, Councillor. So as council is aware, we have been made aware of a potential code of conduct infraction by Councillor Digdon. We've been provided information by a member of the public, and we've also been given information from Councillor Digdon. And we received that information, the first bit of information was received on April the 13th in an official capacity from the resident. And then a couple of weeks after that, Councillor Digdon did provide a bit of context to the complaint. And then just recently, last week, on May the 5th, we allowed the resident the opportunity to provide some clarifying information after our regular council meeting. And Councillor Digdon was also provided with that additional information prior to this evening's meeting, but as of meeting time had not provided other information. And so in speaking with the warden about how we would proceed on this agenda item, basically our thought here is that we would provide all members of council the opportunity to share their thoughts in terms of this potential code of conduct breach. And then, and so providing discussion on that if they're interested. And then following that, we would then have a poll of council regarding whether or not people feel there has been a breach, there has not been a breach, or that the situation requires further investigation. So I guess before we proceed with that, I would just ask members of council if they have questions or would like some clarification in terms of how we'll proceed with this agenda item. Councillors? And Warden, you and I spoke about it earlier today, so I assume you're fine. As I mentioned, what I'd like to do is just start, and we'll just go around the room, and apologies, Councillor Sampson, you're to my direct left, so I'm gonna start with you, then we'll go to Councillor Sampson, and then we'll go to Warden Mumbercat, and then myself. So just comments if you are interested in providing those, and if you prefer not to, you're able to just pass, and then you can just participate in the poll.
Yeah, I would say it probably falls under the interpersonal behavior. Looking through the code, that seems to be the spot that would best fit. I think, I wasn't able to make it the last meeting, but discussion regarding comments made by the member of the public, they're not under that code of conduct anyway, so it doesn't really matter what they say. They can kind of say what they want. It was my opinion. I think it likely falls under there, in my opinion. I don't, yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Sampson. Councillor Sampson?
Yeah, so for me, I said my piece on April 25th, right?
Okay.
I had some concerns from the start. Looking at the May 5th email from the resident in question, there's also concerns from him when it comes to attacking his integrity. That was never my intention, and that's unfortunate he feels that way. For me, I'm just going by his email on April 13th when he mentions the word integrity. He says integrity is giving the municipality's interest absolutely priority over private individual interest. That's all I was doing on April 25th. For me, there's no room around this table for personal opinions or personal agendas. We have to make decisions based on the best interest of the taxpayer. And my major concern was the fact that we seen a brief here, a breach that had just a screenshot of a reply. And we come to find that there was more to the story. And my concern was not, is it a breach, is it not a breach? But my concern was that we were asked to consider putting a motion forward to ask for Councillor Digdon's resignation over this breach that's 14 months old. How severe of a breach was it on March 4th when it wasn't brought to our attention March 8th of 2021 when we had our following meeting? Here we are 14 months after, and it's a big breach. That concerns me. That should concern the taxpayers. I think, again, like I said, on the 25th, we have to be very careful what we do here. I'm sure that Councillor Digdon has reached out to legal people and got some legal advice. And again, it's not a matter of us or me deciding if there's a breach here. But the concern for me is, again, getting a screenshot of one side of the story and us being asked to ask for Councillor Digdon's resignation. That, to me, and again, we're talking 14 months. What's next? A breach that's 18 months old? Right? Again, I did not mean to attack anybody's integrity here. I'm just trying to protect the taxpayers from any kind of legal action here if we do something wrong, right? And again, on March 5th, the resident in question says, I certainly hope that council is not distracted by Councillor Sean Sampson's remarks on April 25th. Is he trying to sway you guys' decision here? Is he trying to sway whether or not you're going to vote? He had mentioned his integrity. I certainly hope that councillors are not distracted by Councillor Sampson's remarks. I didn't think my remarks were a distraction. I felt my remarks were facts and concerns. So, should I feel like my integrity is being targeted? I don't know. But having said that, to me, we're talking about a breach that's 14 months old. That's my concern here, right? And asking for a councillor's resignation for that breach. You know, enough said, right?
Very well. Thank you, Councillor Sampson. Warden Mumbercat, I'll turn the floor over to you. I know you do have some comments on this as well.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, my throat's a little dry. You know, I guess in my view, this report really is related to 2 points. You know, there was a discussion of, an issue raised around conflict of interest. But, I know Councillor Digdon, to the best of my knowledge, has not actively voted on or participated in any decisions where he would be in conflict. So I think the provision in our code has achieved its purpose, and in my mind, that matter is settled. However, I do recognize if you do not declare the conflict, you could, your vote is considered against, even though I know that wasn't the intent in that case. I do think we need to be really careful about this in the future. I know from time to time, councillors are going to need to declare a conflict on issues. I think we need to be really, whether we're leaving the council table physically, I should say, or turning our video off and muting when, if we're doing a digital meeting. And I do think sometimes that digital environment it's a little, we're not as diligent, I guess. And I do think we do need to be diligent in ensuring we clearly state when a conflict is declared and not just that we depart the meeting. But I guess regarding the conversation that occurred over a year ago, I do have similar concerns to Councillor Sean Sampson. The original report, it did contain somewhat incomplete information, in the original report. As it turned out, the constituent had initiated the conversation, not the councillor. And not that, is splitting, it might seem like splitting hairs, but for me that's a little bit significant because Councillor Digdon wasn't going out of his way to discuss, any issue related to staff. But he was commiserating with a constituent who expressed his displeasure with the CAO following a meeting at the Lewisdale Lions Club, where I understand there was quite a bit of rancor about the water bill situation, and it's just an unfortunate situation. That being said, I did discuss the matter with Councillor Digdon because I had, questions about what he had provided to us, and although he indicated that he absolutely regretted using those words, they were clearly in the heat of the moment. And I think, at the end of the day, he approached the matter in a much different manner than what he originally had sent to that constituent. So in my mind, really, Madam Chair, that's where the matter concludes. If, I worry that if we set this precedent now, that this constitutes a breach of the code, then every time we praise or express concern about the performance of staff in the past or in the future, we're setting a precedent on 2 fronts. The first, on the amount of time that can pass before such a report is made. I do think we need to think about that. And the second, on a conversation that includes any reference to staff performance. So again, I agree, the wording was in poor taste and inappropriate, but I do think we need more clarity in the code itself. Because overall, I have some serious concerns with our code of conduct. Council approved the policy prior to our election, and we've already seen how it falls short. I think it was a great first try, but it needs some improvements. Specifically, I feel it's inappropriate for council to investigate our fellow councillors. I don't think it would be appropriate either for staff to do that, as our only staff person really is the CAO, and it would put him or her in a position of investigating his or her employers. And I just think that would be an untenable situation for anybody. So I guess at this point, in terms of action, I would suggest to council that we write to Municipal Affairs to encourage the department to take an active role in making a determination on reported breaches in the new standards and guidelines that they're going to be developing, and to develop training materials related to it. Because right now there's nothing. We don't have any training related to code of conduct. The provincial standard isn't ready now, and it likely won't be for the remainder of the year, but I think we've come to learn that the code we have in place, like I said, falls short. So instead of waiting, I'm also suggesting that we refer the code to our bylaw and policy for discussion on potential improvements until such time as the provincial standard is released. like I said, none of us have received training in the code or how to conduct such an investigation. We relied on legal advice and advice from municipal affairs to date, and staff, which has been really helpful. But I just feel that without a stronger policy, making a decision on something like this, especially where it's sold, it really exposes the municipality. And so that's, I guess, where I would leave my comments. Thank you for the opportunity to say my piece. Over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Warden. So in terms of my own point of view on this matter, I also, I actually agree with everybody. So it's just it's a situation where I think that the exchange was inappropriate. I do think that if it had been brought to, to me, there is a breach here of our code of conduct. It was not becoming of a councillor to reply even to an email in that fashion. That said, I do have similar concerns that you've brought up, Councillor Sampson, as did the warden, in terms of timing. And I don't necessarily mean that the timing is coinciding with another breach of the code of conduct. I simply mean that even if that wasn't the case, it is quite some time since this original exchange took place. And so, in my opinion, it doesn't change my outlook in terms of whether or not a breach has happened in the code of conduct, but in terms of what the consequences are of that breach, right? So that the fact that it's so long afterward would change my opinion in terms of like what actions we would take as a council, with that, in that situation. Okay, so we've all had our chance. If anybody has anything they'd like to add after hearing the roundtable, I'd like to give the opportunity for folks to do that, and if not, then I would like to go and, as previously mentioned, do a poll of council in terms of where we'll proceed.
Yeah, and I can understand where everybody's coming from. I'm not, I definitely understand the fact that there's been a long time frame in between. I would say I think there was a breach. I don't know as to, it's far less serious maybe than some other things could be. I think if we were looking at some kind of corrective action or something like along those lines, honestly, I would be thinking more along the lines of just an apology to the individual that was referenced, but outside of that, I think, I don't think it's serious enough to warrant major corrective actions. Just, I do believe there was a breach. I believe it's fairly minor in nature.
Thank you, Councillor Sampson.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Brent Sampson. I mean, the unfortunate situation here is that it's been 14 months, and I think we've all gotten over that situation, and we've all moved on from that situation. And here we are again, reliving it 14 months after, because I do believe, Deputy Warden, as you mentioned, and I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, but we have to ask the question, does it coincide with the first breach? And is this more of a momentum provider to keep this going? And that, to me, is concerning, right? Having said that, I agree with Councillor Brent Sampson. If there's some sort of apology that comes from Councillor Dignan to, the staff member in question, then, I'm okay with that as well.
Warden,
But
are you okay, ready for the poll?
Yeah, I guess I would just say that, definitely, thank you, Madam Chair. I've kind of said my piece on it, but I guess in terms of action going forward, if we're going to you're going to take a poll on whether or not there was a breach, I think that would impact, I think if it's determined that there was not, then, there are no sanctions.
That's right.
We could encourage somebody to do something, but there are no sanctions.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. First, we're going to take a poll on whether or not we've had a breach or not, or whether or not we feel there's further investigation required. So you have three options before you, and if it is determined that there is a breach, then we will have that conversation in terms of what the consequences would be of that breach.
So if you're asking me, Deputy Warden, to me, this is a heated conversation between two people sharing the same topic and the same displeasures of a topic, which is the Louisdale Lions Club water bill. So for me, no, I don't see a breach here.
No breach, okay. So Councillor Sean Sampson recorded as no breach. Councillor Brent Sampson?
I would say yes, there was.
Okay. Warden Member Cap?
So my feeling on this is that we cannot consider this a breach for those I guess, the exposure issue that we're facing with this particular code. And I'd like to not kind of lose sight of the other suggested actions, so at this time, no.
So you're a no on the breach. Okay, so help me out. The chair is entitled to vote or not? And
Yes,
when
you
there's
are.
a tie, because my vote is that there was a breach.
Okay, so if we're putting it in the form of a motion, then the motion would be defeated. And so I guess I would suggest maybe for Councillor Brent Sampson to make the motion. But then it would be defeated, if we wanted
There
to
would be
record
no
it in the
seconder
minutes,
because
but-
I'm not entitled to make a seconding. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Assistance? That's exactly what would happen?
Yeah, she can relinquish the chair.
You can make a motion, there's no breach.
That's right. So what's gonna happen
Yeah,
when?
so if she made it, it doesn't matter who seconds it, it doesn't mean that you're in favor of it, right? You're just throwing it out for discussion. So I
Right.
don't
That's
think it
right.
matters.
But
who
at the end of the
first, who
day, we already
seconds.
know what the vote is going, I mean, presumably, we know the vote will be 2-2, and what will happen then? It will be defeated?
Right, but it depends on how the motion is worded too, whoever's wording the motion.
Okay.
Because when you think of it, that can go both ways, right? Like I can say to
Yeah.
approve something or not approve it.
Yeah, fair.
Right.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah. But
So I-
that's right. But the vote will be split according to our poll.
that's right.
And when the vote is split according to our,
It's a
it's gonna go to the nay.
It's gonna be a defeated motion.
Correct. Okay.
Right.
All right. So that being said, thank you for that. See, this is the stuff that I needed help with. So, after hearing the poll results, Counselor Sampson or Counselor Sampson, just if anybody is interested in making a motion about this code of conduct breach, knowing what will proceed. Okay, so hearing no motion, we will consider the code of conduct breach to not be a breach, and that topic is closed at the council table.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might.
You might.
I really would like to pursue those other two actions, particularly referring our code of conduct to bylaw and policy.
Yes,
So that we start to look at clarifications in it and timelines to help us make better decisions in the future, to give us a stronger tool
Yep.
with which to make decisions in the future. So I would make that motion to refer the code of conduct to bylaw and policy for improvement.
great. So I have a motion on the floor by Warden Lumbercat to refer the code of conduct policy to bylaw and policy for review and discussion. Do I have a seconder on that motion to refer?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Counselor Sampson. I'm wondering at this point if Counselor Digdon should be invited back to the meeting, because this is no longer part of the discussion that relates to his conflict.
Yeah.
Perhaps Counselor Sampson, thank you. Apologies, folks. We'll just give Counselor Digdon a minute to rejoin us. So Counselor Digdon, we currently have a motion on the floor to refer our code of conduct policy to bylaw and policy for further discussion and potential amendments. So that motion, I apologize, I should have invited you back to the meeting before we started that discussion, but that motion has been made by Warden Lumbercat and seconded by Counselor Sampson. And so we would open the floor to discussion, at which point, if you have questions, this might be the time. Or other members of council.
My only thought on that is, I do agree with the warden that there was definitely some holes in council, and investigating itself was never ideal. But I think knowing that the province is working on this currently and maybe sending a letter off to the province to ask to reiterate that we really want to see this done. I don't know that, I think it'd be a waste of our time to spend too much time and effort rejigging our code of conduct, when in reality, there's going to be one that'll supersede it coming in, hopefully before too long anyway.
Okay, thank you for that. There also will be, the warden has also indicated, just for your own information, Councillor Digdon, that she would also like to write a letter to the province. So what Councillor Sampson has mentioned is something that I suspect she'll be making a motion on after we vote on this one. So again, looking for any discussion on the motion to refer the code of conduct policy to bylaw and policy.
I guess the only thing I would add to Councillor Brent Sampson's comments is that, in the beginning, I absolutely agreed with you, Councillor Sampson, we would take care of this all in one. But I just feel like, based on the latest information from NSFM, it looks like they're going to maybe do some consultations over the summer. It's going to be the end of next year before we see some kind of draft. And so I just don't know that we want to wait, because we've seen that the tool we have kind of falls short, and there might be some simple changes we could make to just give it a little bit of strength to protect ourselves with. So that's the reason I'm putting it forward, because I was absolutely on the same wavelength as you were originally, Councillor Sampson.
Great. Any further discussion? Okay, so we're ready for the vote on referring the code of conduct. All those in favor of referring the code of conduct to bylaw policy, please signify with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Contraminded?
No? Nay?
That's Councillor Brent Sampson. Motion is carried. Warden Member-Kett, I believe you also wanted to make a motion regarding preparing a letter to the province, to municipal affairs.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion at this time that we write to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to encourage the department to take an active role in making a determination on reported breaches in whatever new standards that are developed, and to develop training materials related to it, so that we have that third-party sort of objective assessment happening.
Excellent. So we do have a motion on the floor to prepare a letter to municipal affairs, and looking for a seconder for that motion, please.
I'll second that one.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Hearing nothing, all those in favor of providing a letter to the province, please signify with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any contrary-minded? Motion carried. Okay, so the next item on our agenda, we actually have a couple of items on our agenda, both under Warden Member-Kett. So Warden Member-Kett, I will hand the stage off to you to discuss Happy Communities and the non-resident property tax update.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So we did receive a proposal from the Happy Communities project for a piece of add-on work, really, to the Acting Collectively project, and that was circulated. The program really unfolds in 4 phases around building a team to do the work, launching the project, building momentum and sustainability. It's essentially a community engagement process to encourage people to participate and generate new ideas in their communities, and really, I think, would be an add-on to the Acting Collectively work that's already underway. However, the proposal does look to the municipality for a price tag on that of over $45,000 over 3 years. So at this time, I guess I would just simply suggest that we defer that to budget, because I think it's, that's way too big an ask for us to consider sort of in a broader meeting like this. But I'd entertain any questions. Although I think I know as much as you folks know based on the documentation. So.
Thank you, Warden. So Warden is just given us an update on the Happy Communities program and asked and suggested that we would move it to budget. I would agree, but looking for any.
Yeah, I agree.
Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we'll move this Happy Communities program information to our budget discussions, which are ramping up this week. Warden Member-Kett, I'll then hand it off to you for the non-resident property tax update.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. And I know we've already, dealt with this, by deciding to write a letter to municipal affairs regarding the tax, protesting it. But on Thursday of last week, Premier Houston reversed the province's decision to proceed with the 2% per $100 of assessment property tax for non-residents of Nova Scotia. And so, that tax would have had far-reaching impacts on local businesses and communities. Seasonal residents contribute greatly to our rural communities and economies. We know this to be true. There were comparisons to other property tax structures in other areas of the country, but the sheer amount and the processes that were being proposed here were not the same at all. There was a lot of concern that a clear message had been sent that Nova Scotia's welcome that was officially rolled up. The funding, that was going to be collected was not earmarked specifically to address the housing crisis, and was not earmarked to be reinvested in the municipalities from which it was collected, which is a major concern, I think. And also, many of the properties that would be most impacted just would not align with the province's attainable housing goals. Particularly when you consider affordable housing and you need to locate it near food, fuel, and pharmacies. A lot of these properties are more rural in nature. Lots of concern around ancestral homes, where far-flung family members return year after year being put at risk. And also, I guess my main concern was the property tax room that would have been lost to municipalities that are already facing skyrocketing costs, because this property tax was kind of the purview of municipalities. So to me, this was a matter of principle. The decision was made to go ahead without us being consulted and without any direct financial benefit to us, in fact, with negative consequences. And so I guess at this time, I would like to suggest that we amend the motion of April 25th to write a letter to Premier Houston instead of protesting the tax, instead to provide a note of thanks for his willingness to listen to the feedback provided by this council, many other councils, and the many people who communicated the unintended and devastating consequences this could have on our rural economies in particular. And although the letter originally wasn't written, we just passed the motion to do that. I certainly, right after the council meeting last time, reached out to our MLA and asked him to communicate to the Premier that the letter was forthcoming. And it just turns out that the decision was reversed before then. So I guess I would make, and I might need a little help on the wording because I don't have my Robert's Rules book with me, but I guess it would be to amend the motion of April 25th to write a letter to Premier Houston protesting the tax and instead provide a note of thanks for his willingness to listen to the feedback.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, I'm looking to Yvonne right now. You can't see me, Warden, but I'm just looking to her. And, the motion originally was just, a letter to be written by Warden, by yourself, to Tim Houston, and it went through all the other members, which I think needs to not be changed. And it would only be the back end of the motion, which is talking about regarding the proposed non-resident provincial property tax and the proposed non-resident deed transfer tax. So I think that's still applicable, announced as part of the budget, indicating the municipality of Richmond's opposition to this initiative. So I think your motion would say that we adjust the motion to replace the indicating the municipality of Richmond County's opposition to the initiative to instead say to thank them for listening to the concerns of the residents. But I guess my question would be, Warden, where do we stand with the deed transfer tax? Like, are we still, what is your feeling in terms of our opposition to that? Or are we just looking to provide a note of concern, a note of thanks for listening?
Yeah, I think with the deed transfer tax, given the fact that the property tax has been completely removed, I feel like my feeling is that it's an acceptable compromise. It's not ideal, again, but I think we do need to note the principle of not being consulted, right? And so, I guess I would not be, necessarily protesting it at this point, but I certainly would be noting the need to consult municipalities in it. So I don't know that I would really make any changes to that piece.
Okay. So this is what I'm hearing. That we're looking to move that we amend a previously approved motion, which was approved on April the 25th, 2022, and that we want to amend the part that reads, indicating the municipality of Richmond County's opposition to this initiative, and changing it to indicate that we would like to, this is where I'll let you say your part. And
yeah. Well, I guess to change it to thanking the Premier for listening to the concerns of municipalities and Nova Scotians, and just continuing to express our concern about consultation going forward.
Thank you. So the warden has made a motion to amend a previously adopted motion. I have to say that slowly to make sure I have all the proper words. Would anybody be interested in seconding that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any further discussion or any discussion on this motion? So hearing no discussion, looking for a vote on the motion to amend a previously approved motion. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, so we now move on to item 7 on our agenda, and item 7 on our agenda is Councillor Michael Digdon, who will be making a member statement to council. So just in advance of that, I just want to make a comment that this is a member statement, and there will be no discussion or debate following the statement. So, Councillor Digdon.
Thank you, Chair. Guess I'll start. I rise on a point of personal privilege in my communication with a member of the public last November. I regret violating Richmond County's Code of Conduct for elected officials. Reflecting upon my actions and words over the last few weeks and months, I have come to realize that it was inappropriate to send a personal response in relation to a request for action from me as a councillor for District 2. No matter our familiarity with each other, I should not have reacted in a personal manner instead of a professional one when my assistance was requested. I misunderstood the nature of the request, but I recognize now that I should not have responded the way that I did. I will not speak further on my past personal interactions with the resident involved in this matter, in accordance with the wishes she has expressed in comments made to the media. I take responsibility for my actions in reference to this matter, and I have apologized to my council team and to the resident involved. I also want to apologize to the residents of District 2 and to all residents of Richmond County. For the residents of Richmond County that know me, they are aware that I've been involved in the community for several decades now, and that I'm a strong supporter of community groups, halls, and causes in need. My love for the community was the deciding factor in running for council, and my drive to continue to support and work hard for our community is still there and always will be. I accept the decisions of council and the sanctions imposed. In addition to their requirements, I will be donating my stipend for the month of April equally to both Leaside Transition House and Autism Nova Scotia. I'm grateful that these organizations exist to support women in crisis and people with autism and their families. I do wish to raise a concern with council's decision to suspend a councillor under the Code of Conduct policy. While a councillor is suspended, its district is not represented by its elected officials. Suspension of a councillor is not authorized under the Municipal Government Act, nor is it mentioned in the Code of Conduct policy itself. I have served a 1-month suspension given to me by council, and I'm not trying to reverse that decision, but raise this concern with regard to any future decisions that need to be made by council. I know that family and friends on all sides have been affected by my recent actions. I made a poor decision, and again, apologize. In addition, I want to assure the residents of Richmond County that I am committed to learning from this, and that I will work diligently to move forward with the best interests of our county in mind. Thank you. Again, I've said it before, and I'll definitely say it again tonight. I apologize to each and every one of the councillors that sit around this table with me. Madam Chair, for you that's holding the meeting tonight, I especially want to reach out and give you a sincere apology, since when I seen your face read that motion to me, you know, all I created was hurt around the table. Again, I apologize, and all I can do is move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item of business on tonight's agenda is community acknowledgements. And so I would look to council, I do have a long list. I said before the meeting tonight, I feel like I took your chair, Amanda, and I took all of your acknowledgements. But I will open the floor to council, if anybody has some community acknowledgements, and, when you're through, I'll go through my list.
Yeah, so for me,
Councillor Sampson?
Deputy Warden Chair, thank you. As discussed earlier, yesterday's graduation ceremony at St. FX, Joël Fougère of Petit-de-Gras was awarded the Onyx Corporation Gold Medal for Bachelor of Business Administration. Congratulations to all the St. FX graduates. For me, this hits home because I know Joël personally. I've coached him baseball. He's volunteered with me for the past 5-6 years, maintaining the ball fields in Petit-de-Gras. He's a fine young man and has a bright future ahead of him, so just want to congratulate Joël.
Excellent. Councillor Dignan,
Yeah,
I feel you had one, yes?
I have a good one, the, Les Pieds au Vol, the dance group, I guess, thought by, I wanna say, Madame Renee, from Louisdale. They had several groups come back with, many awards. One of the group won, 1 gold, a silver, and 2 bronze. Another group won a bronze, another group won a gold. And, it's my understanding, and I could have the age limits off, but I believe the 11 years, or maybe it's, 11-year-old are heading to Quebec, as well as the 14-year-old plus are also heading to Quebec. They both won gold, and they will be moving on to the dance competition in Quebec, so congratulations to the teacher and the girls for all the hard work and dedication.
Absolutely. Ward Member Kett, I believe you had a couple as well?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. First is our volunteer of the month. This month is Georgette Burke from St. Peter's. So Georgette is well known in the community and is an active volunteer with Straight Richmond Palliative Care. She became engaged in palliative care practice and education when she was working part-time as a social worker at Straight Richmond Hospital. And then eventually, after retirement, she joined the Palliative Care Society and is actually a recent recipient of the Community of Care Award from Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health for her work there. You know, with the support of the palliative healthcare team, she and her family were able to provide for, final care and wishes for each of her parents. And on her retirement, she just wanted to give back and stay connected, and is an active board member not only with the society, but also volunteers with the bereavement follow-up program under Nova Scotia Health and with the Senior Safety and Social Inclusion Program as a member of the advisory board. And I just want to say a big congratulations to Georgette. I can't think of anyone more deserving. So, and then additionally, I did want to, to mention that last week it was announced that a local project focused on addressing gender-based violence through community consultation and support is going to be soon launching in Richmond County, actually on May 24th, with a launch event to be held at the St. Louis Parish Hall in Bluesdale. So Circles of Support and Change is a project administered by the Antigonish Women's Resource Centre with support from Women and Gender Equality Canada. It uses strengths-based, trauma-informed approach to center the voices of survivors in gender-based violence in support of circles that include their chosen families, community members, educators, and service providers. And it's actually inspired by the Indigenous model developed by Bakungek Mi'kmaq Nation based on several years of effort in that community to provide culturally relevant and trauma-informed support and approaches. So I just want to say a big thank you to Danielle Martel and the Antigonish Women's Resource Centre for bringing this wonderful project to Richmond County. It's great to see these kinds of supports starting up. And so thank you to the group for bringing that to our county.
Great, thanks.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councillor Sampson, are you good? Yep. So as I mentioned, I do have a few. When we had our last Committee of the Whole meeting, we had talked about some provincial champs of minor hockey, and I said that I knew that some of the female teams had won gold at the provincial level, but I didn't know which divisions, and so I'd like to congratulate the Quad County Whitecaps, who are the provincial champs in U15 AAA, U18A, and U18 AA levels. And in fact, the female hockey teams have recently formed their own league, so it's quite a movement forward for female hockey in Canada. Also want to congratulate West Richmond Riders Association, their ATV club. They were awarded Club of the Year at the ATV Association of Nova Scotia AGM on April the 30th, and that's quite a feat for a very young club. A club only joined ATV ANS in 2020, but they've really grown their membership and grown their club over that time, so congratulations to them for that. Not too far from there, West Bay Road and District Volunteer Fire Department took delivery of a new pumper truck early in May, I think May the 1st. They'll be celebrating their new truck with an open house on May the 15th, which is this Sunday from 1 to 4. And I think it's also worth mentioning that they will be passing on their 1994 truck to the Grand River Volunteer Fire Department, who needs a little financial help, and that will certainly help with fire protection in that area. My understanding is that the key Passover will happen somewhere between 3 and 4, if that's something that folks want to be there for. Want to congratulate the Louisdale Lions Club for once again organizing a wonderful event this weekend. They had the community cleanup on Saturday, and it was really amazing to see the number of volunteers. The plan was to do the cleanup from 8 to 11, and most of us were done by 9:30, 10 o'clock, because there was just so many people who had come out to help, so that was wonderful. Thanks for that. In my district, a young man by the name of David Matthews played hockey with my sons from time to time. He's recently been rostered with the Moncton Wildcats. He's been affiliated with them for the season, but now he's playing with them in the Quebec Major Junior League. If you go on their website to look at their roster, it has him listed for Maniganish, but that's not true. That's a young man from Louisdale. So congratulations to him, and currently the Wildcats are playing in the first round of playoffs, so wishing them good luck, and David especially. And last that I had was also in line with Councillor Sampson's congratulations of St. FX grads this past Sunday. I did want to recognize Joël Fougère, which Councillor Sampson has done, but also wanted to congratulate Emma LeBlanc of Descousse, who captured the Dean of Science Senior Award for Excellence in Nursing Practice, and also Taylor Sampson of Cape George, who received the book prize of the Consul General of Switzerland in Montreal for French. So congratulations to all the graduates, but special congratulations to these 3 students who had some special award winning. Okay, our CFO has been waiting patiently for his turn on the agenda. So as we enter the correspondence section of our agenda, we will look to Jason Martel, our CFO, who will be reviewing grant requests. I think it's important to mention that we have, that although our budget is not approved, we have started budget deliberations and have determined that we want to continue with the grants as we have done in the past. And so due to that, and due to the fact that, of course, lots of groups are looking for us to decide whether or not we're going to be supporting them and how much we would be supporting them, we've asked him to bring forward the applications that he has to us this evening. So, CFO Martel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you'll see on the agenda tonight, there are 3 grant requests that are ready for your review. The first one is a Type 4 grant for Regional Health General, and it's from the River Bourgeois Community Service Society. You would have seen this on the last agenda. It was referred, or I guess delayed, to a future meeting. So that request is for $10,000, and the purpose of the grant is to build a shed/canteen at the River Bourgeois ball field. And it's approximately a 26 by 16 storage canteen building. I will mention that COA is a partner on this funding application, so they are currently approved for $7,417 to contribute. The total project is about $27,559, and they're looking for $10,000 from the county, and they would be putting in the rest out of their own funding.
Any questions or discussion on this grant application?
I just have one, and honestly, I don't think it makes a difference. It's just looking over the estimates. The estimate for the slab was a 16 by 26, but the estimate for the electrical was a 20 by 28 building. And again, not that it might have been just you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Potato, it's only 2 extra feet, probably more or less. So as long as they're okay with what they estimated, then I think we move on. Just
Other questions or comments, Board?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I just wanted to say that, I think this is a really great project. I guess in the scheme of things, knowing that we're going to be facing some financial pressures, I do think that $10,000 request at this time is probably more than what we could bear. And although it is a piece of infrastructure, that they're building, that I think will be used like any ball field in the county. Lots of people from all over the county will use that asset. So I'm kind of two minds about it a little bit. But I guess what I would propose is that I would be willing to put forward $2,500 from a district fund and maybe $2,500 from regional, if council was supportive of that, for a total of $5,000 towards the project. But I certainly would be open to other suggestions as well. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm okay with that suggestion. I mean, I've used that ball field in the past, and then I've spent many nights on that ball field. So for them to get a new canteen and washroom facilities and stuff like that is exciting. So I'd be in favor of what the warden is suggesting.
I think I'd like to, and I know we're under budget constraints, but I just look at the organizations that do use that field. And again, it's a playground, it's a tennis court, and it's a ball field. So it incorporates a lot of people down at that. So especially the washroom facilities. I mean, there's when you gotta go, it's priceless, I guess is the best way I can say it. So to me, I would, again, I'd be okay with the, I don't know if we can budget-wise, but I think $5,000 from our, regional, sorry, thank you, would be probably where I would be, and again, it's only because there's so many people from all of Richmond County that use that ball field all week long, from adults to, minor ball.
So I'm hearing support for the project, just a bit of discussion in terms of the funding piece.
Yeah, so wait, as per, Councillor Digdon's suggestion, Warden, would you still be comfortable with the $2,500 coming from your district fund, and if we were to go ahead with the $5,000 from the regional fund?
Are you hearing that, Warden?
Just struggling to hear Councillor Brent
Well,
there.
If the total number were changed, if I'm understanding Councillor Digdon correctly, to 7,500 rather than 5,000 total, would that work for you as 2,500 out of your district fund and 5,000 out of the regional? Is that, or unless I'm misinterpreting you, Councillor Digdon?
Yeah, that was kind of my question too, Councillor Brent. I wasn't sure if he meant just, 5,000 would still be the amount, but it would all come out of regional, or were you considering increasing the amount to 7,500, Councillor Digdon?
Well, I think I'm okay with the, personally I'm okay with the 5,000 coming out of the regional, and, I mean, if, the 2,500, if you wanna sink that out of your own, again, I believe, like I've said in the past, and like Councillor Sampson said in the past, and we all sit around the table, it's, kids from Almadam use it, kids from the river use it, kids from Rosedale use it, so I'm okay with using money out of my district fund as well to help support that initiative.
Okay, so at some point here, we have to come to something.
So, yeah,
So I guess,
So my deal would be, I'm okay to put in $500 from my district fund to support the ball field and also the 5,000 from the regional fund.
so you're, again, at some point here, someone's gonna need to make a motion, but I guess I'm just trying to gather up what we can find to something that could be kind of agreed upon by others.
So do you wanna, Madam Warden, I guess, do you wanna save your 500 out of your district fund now that Councillor Digdon added his 500? And again, I could do the same out of my district fund. There's people from, kids from District 1 and kids from District 2 that play on rep baseball teams that use the home field as River Bourgeois Field, where kids from the entire province of Nova Scotia come to play to that field and at that field. So I would be okay putting in the $500 from my district fund as well.
Okay, well, that's really kind. I feel like, again, this is a really great infrastructure project, so I'm totally okay with leaving the district fund investment at 2,500, in 5,000 from the regional, And if you would like to do the contribution as well, that would take the investment to 8,500, which is a little closer to what they were looking for, but,
I would personally be willing to pop in 500 for my district fund as well. I would also say that, you know, we'll see where the motion kind of comes out here in terms of the 5,000 from the regional fund. My original thought was that we would do 500 from the regional and then, 2,500 from the regional and then 2,500 that perhaps we could collectively gather up to bring ourselves to 5. But I do recognize it is in your district, Warden, so I can understand you know, being willing to put more to it. Councillor Sampson, Brent Sampson, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't, just see where I guess where the motion ends
Yeah.
up. I think I'd shy away from it this early in the year, not knowing what's coming down the pipe, just
Yeah.
from my own district fund.
Yeah.
It's not that I really would like to see it go
Yeah.
ahead, and that's where I kind of liked Councillor Digdon's idea of the 5,000 from the regional grant fund. I feel that's
Okay.
a more appropriate place for it to come from, but I understand the warden's 2,500 because it's within her district.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's
Yeah.
close, right? So that's how I would
Yeah,
look
and
at
again,
it.
So I'd be
Okay, so-
I'd be willing to make a motion that
Thank you.
we take, use $5,000 from the regional fund, the $2,500 from Madam Warden's
District 4.
District 4 fund, 500 from District 1, 500 from District 2, and 500 from District 3, for a total of $9,000.
okay, so
So,
I will definitely second that motion.
okay. So moved by Councillor Digdon and seconded by Warden Mumbercat, that we would fund a total of 75, 85, $9,000, so we're getting pretty close. 5,000 from the regional fund, 2,500 from District 4, and 500 each from Districts 1, 2, and 3. Any discussion on the motion? Ready to vote? All those in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? The motion is carried. Ready for the next one, CFO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second grant request on your agenda is for a Type 1 infrastructure grant, and it's from the St. Peter's RCL Branch 47. And it's for $3,924.44. And it's for renovation of offices due to respiratory member health issues. And what they're looking at doing is gutting completely, I guess, the 3 offices and completely redoing them, and then also adding in a heat pump. So included in the pricing, there's no labor cost because the members are going to be doing it themselves. So the total amount of the cost would be $7,848.87, and that would be divided by 2. And I just want to note that that's not the exact numbers, I guess, that are in the application because they were a little bit unsure, but those are the exact numbers, the 7848.87 divided by 2.
Excellent. Any questions or comments of the CFO on this grant application?
So Madam Chair, I think the only not clarification, but just point of information I would want to share is that this is the Legion that's actually located in Grand Anse.
That's right.
And I know there was some confusion about that because it's called the St. Peter's Branch type of thing, so, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Well,
No, I
I
know.
don't know if you had anything else to say.
Well, no, I mean, for me, I'm certainly in support of that, and it, you know, it is in Grand Anse, and although, you know, yeah, I mean, for sure, I would be willing to put some of my district fund money in there as well, so, but just looking for discussion as the chair from others first.
I'd be more than willing to support this project, to make a motion for it to go ahead, to support that number. I just don't know where you're at with your district.
Yeah, fair, yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Brent Sampson, yeah. I mean, when you hear the word Legion, it's hard
I
not to
know.
support, right? So,
Warden Mumbercat, what's your thoughts here? This is a spot
Yeah.
for you and I think.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'd be more than willing to put in a couple $100 from my district fund, and then, you know, maybe we could take the rest from regional.
Yeah.
Would be my feeling.
What about if we split the 924.44 between us and then we put 3,000 to the regional? Are you okay with that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Sound okay to everyone? Anybody ready to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I will do that. I just want to make sure I have the
What-
math right. There was, okay, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, well,
um,
are we, if CFO, is it okay if the motion just basically says, say we take 3,000 from the general fund and split the balance between
yeah,
districts
sure.
3 and 4?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Okay,
good.
so I'll make that motion to approve $3,000 in funding from our regional fund, and with the remainder, split between districts 3 and 4 district funds for this project.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Okay, that motion is carried. So we're ready to talk about the grant application from the South Mountain Arm of Gold.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The third grant application is for a Type 1 infrastructure grant request, and it's from the South Mountain Arm of Gold Community Association. They're looking for $5,000, and it's to replace the existing roof on their hall with a metal roof. The quote that they would be going with is $27 would be the cost of the total project. And yeah, they're looking for $5,000.
So they are currently investigating some options for grant, for provincial and federal grants as well, which they've indicated in their application. I think they're just looking for a little bit of leverage on those. Any discussion or questions on that?
Do we have, a copy of their balance sheet or their income, or?
Yeah, they have, in terms of their balance sheet, their bank balance at the end of March was like a little more than 9,000. They do have an emergency fund GIC of 40,000, which they do plan on using some of their own funds to backfill on the rest of the 27. So it's 27,000 is the projected cost. So I am obviously, this is an organization in my district, and so for sure I'm planning to put in some of my funds as well here. Just wondering the appetite of council in terms of the general funds or other districts if applicable.
So, Madam Chair, sorry,
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Digdon.
yeah, so I guess, it's unfortunate that we don't have these are the only three we have, I guess, that's come forward so far
Yeah.
for grant application.
Yeah.
I would, I know it's great that you're using, or you wanna use your district fund, but at the same time, it's the early in the year, so I think personally, I would proceed using our, regional fund for the $5,000, and then possibly hold on to your grant, your personal fund for down the road. That would just be my,
So are you suggesting that we would fund this entire amount through the regional fund?
well, unfortunately, I don't have the balances of what we're left and what
Yeah, we
we've got
don't
to
really
work
have
with.
any balances, that's our
That's
problem.
the-
Yeah,
that's the-
we're kinda working-
You're new.
night, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I guess are we, we can't break it up, into sections, give them some now and some later, is that an option available, or? Like can we split the difference and give them 2,500 now towards their, or would they have to reapply?
They would likely have to reapply, and basically they can't start the project until the council would be funded, so they'd have to apply for a different grant later, I guess.
Yeah, that's the complicated part, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Warden Mumbercat, I believe you had a comment as well?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So my feeling is that, we know that they're looking for funding on this. I would like to see us be able to support them in the amount of the $5,000 for the roof. We could, say contingent on their, funding from other sources. I think is how I would word that at this time. I just happen to be in a situation where I know that the price of roofing is skyrocketing, and so I'm just a little concerned that that any quote you get today is going to be more tomorrow. So so I'd be prepared to make a motion that we support the project to the tune of $5,000 from our regional fund, contingent on securing other sources of funds. Would that
Do
Would
we
that
want
meet their-
do we want to quantify what that looks like, though? CFO Martel, would we need to do something like that?
Well, I guess if the motion was vague in the sense that it would be contingent on funding, is that they would need to get at least $1 to qualify for funding.
Right, that's what I'm
So-
thinking,
Give us
right?
20 bucks.
Yeah.
So,
There you
well,
go.
I guess if it's contingent on other levels of government
Yes.
funding, then it wouldn't be, donations at large, but,
Yes,
again, we don't know how much they would be applying for this current
Mhm.
grant, so it's
Mhm.
probably not, wise to put a number in.
okay.
Yeah, they might choose to just use their emergency fund too, right? We don't know, so I think.
And then at the same time, if you put it contingent on the provincial or federal funding and they
Yeah.
get nothing, then basically the grant would be squashed.
Correct, yeah, but I mean, just having attended their AGM, and there was quite a bit of discussion about it. I mean, I think my understanding from attending that meeting was that, if they're not able to access other forms of funding, they probably can't afford to proceed. Like,
Okay.
they're in a precarious position in that they cannot, that is emergency funding, and they don't have enough money. They only have $9,000, and they're coming up with ways to raise money right now, but they're never, they just know themselves that without government help, they're not gonna get to the number they need to get to.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a fair motion to make, as long as we don't have to quantify that. I mean, the likelihood they're gonna get $1 from federal or provincial is non-existent, so, yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so, I believe I heard a motion from you, Warden Mumbercat, that we would approve the $5,000 grant for the South Mountain Armor Gold Community Association out of the regional fund, contingent on them accessing fundings from other level of government.
Other sources.
Other sources, thank you.
Yep.
Do I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Brent Sampson. Any further discussion on the motion? Excellent. All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded? That motion is carried. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is a review of the checks issued for April of 2022, and as always, this is just an information piece. We've been provided the list in advance and encouraged to reach out to staff if we had any questions on those checks. Okay, so not hearing any comment on that, we will then proceed to agenda item number 11, which is again provided for information purposes, which is the review of action items from April the 11th Committee of the Whole meeting. I think there were two, I don't have it up on my screen, but I think there were two. One has been taken care of and the other is still pending.
And the pending one is one of mine, so something to discuss during budget deliberations, Jason,
Great.
CFO, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we're ready for item 12 on our agenda, which is the section where we discuss items added to the agenda. And this evening, we only have one item that's been added, which was brought forward by Councillor Sean Sampson to discuss, preliminarily discuss a policy regarding cell phone use in council chambers. So Councillor Sampson will give you a short time to sort of introduce your thought, and then if you
Yeah.
could proceed with a motion to do that referral.
Yeah, so no, I mean, for me, I've, from day one, I've had an issue with cell phones in this chambers. Whether it's members of the public or people around this table, to me, no one's ever seen my cell phone. They're not gonna see my cell phone for the hour and a half or 2 hours we're around this table. I don't think there should be cell phones. So I would like to see some kind of discussion or a policy put in place for cell phone use in the council chambers.
Thank you. Are you
So,
prepared to make a motion on that?
Yeah, so I'd put a motion forward that we refer this to bylaw and policy and look into a cell phone use in the council chambers, policy for that.
Thanks, Councillor Sampson. So Councillor Sampson has made a motion to refer the topic of cell phone use in council chambers to bylaw and policy committee. Do I have a seconder on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. Any discussion on the motion?
I would say I generally shut mine off, put it in the bag, but it's not something I'm really concerned about, because I think everybody, whether it be public or us sitting around the table, we're all adults here, and I don't know that we have to, like, treat this like a grade 5 class or anything.
I guess sitting back and,
I think it's personal choice, although I don't, I put mine away, but
Oh, no, and so do I, Councillor Sampson, but I've seen members of the public use it in this room as well, right? So when we had the session with Chris McNeil, you know, he started our day. He started our day with, you know, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. You know, for anybody that's around this table or anybody in council chambers, please shut your cell phones off. You know, so I'd like to see something like that. Again, we're all adults, but if there's something in place that says it's prohibited, I'd like to see that go in that direction. in my
Okay, so
opinion.
we have a motion on the
Yeah.
floor, and so we'll see where that motion leads us, and then we'll either have the discussion in bylaw policy or
Yeah.
we won't.
Yeah.
So, look, any further discussion? Okay, so, all those in favor, excuse me, of referring, the matter of, cell phone use policy.
that's the Mexican coming out of you.
Yeah, that's what it is, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay?
Nay.
So that motion is carried. All right, so now we move to our question period this evening. So a reminder that the Committee of the Whole question period is not restricted to items on the agenda, but there is a 15-minute time period for that. And it is important, of course, that we are looking for questions, right? So not statements. So as Warden Mumbercat has joined us by phone, we have an alternative phone number that folks should call to be part of question period. So that number is 902-631-5929. So again, the number is 902-631-5929. And that's for anybody who might want to call in with a question for council during question period. And again, a reminder that comments must be phrased in the form of a question. And we will, of course, answer those if it's appropriate. And just while we're burning up time waiting to see if the phone rings off the hook, just a reminder that no person speaking shall speak disrespectfully, use offensive words, or disobey the rules of order or a decision of the chair. So we'll just give that a minute or two. We have a call. So, good evening, welcome, and thanks for calling in. Just a reminder to identify yourself, please, and proceed to your question. Hello?
Hi,
Oh, there's a little bit of a lag, okay. Yep. So
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, this is Celeste Hotel calling.
Thank you, Celeste.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Hi, Celeste Hotel calling.
Yes, Celeste.
I was delighted to hear that the warden speak about the Happy Communities project, and I was wondering if she could elaborate on that a bit more for the benefit of people watching.
So Warden, I'm not sure if you've been able to hear that, but Celeste is on the phone, and she's, her question is just asking if you could elaborate a bit more on that project for Happy Communities.
For sure I can. So, so the Happy Communities project is essentially being proposed, I guess I shouldn't say proposed, but endorsed by CARP, which is of course an organization, Celeste, that you would be well familiar with. They really are talking about an incremental and sustained shift in community culture, and it proposes kind of a community building process related to the Acting Collectively goals that would kind of mitigate and address future needs, including the ones that are identified through the Acting Collectively, I guess care plans that will be completed through the Acting Collectively project for seniors of Richmond County. And I'd be happy to share some details from the proposal with you as well, because I'm sure it'd be of great interest to the Seniors Take Action Coalition. So I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Warden. So we ended up losing Celeste, so whether she hung up to listen to us live or whether we lost her, certainly I think it's a great idea for you to reach out to her and share with her that information. I'm sure she'd welcome it.
Great, thank you.
There's still a little bit of a lag. Okay, so again, just a reminder for folks, 902-631-5929 is the number to call in this evening. Okay, so we have a second caller.
Hi, Yvonne, it's just me. I'm calling back to let you know that I hung up to reduce the feedback.
Okay.
And thanks to the warden.
Thank you, Celeste.
Okay.
All right, so again, there's your personal note of thanks, Warden Rumbercat. So just give it another minute, 902-631-5929. Okay, I think we put the number out there a bit ago, so I think at this point, we would be prepared to entertain a motion to move us in camera. We do have an in-camera session this evening regarding personnel, so looking for someone to move us into camera, please.
I'll make that motion, Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden Lumbercat. Seconder on the motion, please.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon. All those in favor of moving us into camera?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? The motion is carried. We'll take a very brief recess, and we will move ourselves into camera. Thank you.